There's actually a really big week coming up specifically regarding some of the fundamentals in the crypto markets. It's been dubbed Crypto Week in the US, a bit of a policy week there, so sort of breaking down what that might all mean, as well as some major milestones for the crypto space.
Bitcoin hit an all-time high of 123k USD yesterday. This is the first pump we've had in a while that wasn't really triggered by Trump or anything major in the US.
To see Bitcoin leading the way and Ethereum actually finding following, this is something we've been waiting for, from a market mechanic perspective for a very, very long time. It sort of sets the stage for more of a sustainable move, fingers crossed. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tapping Into Crypto with me, the illustrious Ted. Just quietly flexing off camera there for a minute. Gave me the giggles.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for the intro, Pavarigo. It's good to see. How's
right.
things, mate?
Doing well.
Doing well?
Yeah.
Well, mate, we just had one of the best days we've had in a while in the crypto market yesterday, so things are looking real good.
Well, yeah, you could say the last 7 days have been an absolute treat. And we've got some chatter about the top movers, which we'll dive into a little bit later in the show. But I think the biggest thing to call out is obviously, like you said, market's moving. I thought it'd be really good to prime people for maybe what's ahead. There's actually a really big week coming up specifically regarding, some of the fundamentals in the crypto markets. It's been dubbed Crypto Week in the US, a bit of a policy week there. So sort of breaking down what that might all mean. As well as some major milestones for the crypto space. I think we should tuck right in this week.
Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight in.
Yeah,
all right, so key updates. So Bitcoin hit an all-time high of 123k USD yesterday, so approximately 185, 86.
Getting close to 200k
Aussie. Mate, that's a big milestone. I know, some of our international users or listeners probably don't care about that, but massive for us Aussies. And interesting to note is this is the first pump we've had in a while that wasn't really triggered by Trump or anything major in the US.
Has been headline free, hasn't it? I didn't really take that point.
I think that is quite a positive takeaway in all things. It means we can sort of separate ourselves a little bit. Don't need to rely solely on the orange man. But
and speaking of health of pumps as well, to see Bitcoin leading the way and Ethereum actually finding following, this is something we've been waiting for, from a market mechanic perspective for a very, very long time. It sort of sets the stage for more of a sustainable move, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I've actually got some insight on that later in the show, so we're going to unpack that as well. So, mate, let's get straight in. So what's the key sort of news to unpack here relating to Bitcoin's all-time high?
So we're seeing, we've talked about the ETFs being a major fundamental, catalyst since their inception in January 2024. We've actually seen BlackRock's IBIT fund become the fastest ETF in the US to reach $80 billion in assets under management. So that is absolutely eclipsed anything that was close.
Yep.
News article recently, I think it was a week or two ago, that the IBIT product is actually bringing more revenue than a lot of the S&P index funds that they have. So it's actually, the demand's going, sustained, right? We talked about, was this ETF thing going to be a slow burn? Seeing consistent and persistent staying power and a lot of demand for the product. So obviously Wall Street's loving it.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the IBIT ETF is bigger than the S&P 500 product that is offered by BlackRock. It's just, it is generating more revenue because, obviously the margins are a little bit higher.
That's right.
So, but yeah, it's the fastest growing ETF in history in its first year. So it's absolutely massive, and it makes it in the top 20 biggest ETFs in the world in just over 12 months.
Yep.
So pretty massive. Obviously huge appetite for Bitcoin in the US from the likes of institutions. There's always been that demand for retail. That's still there, and we've got these Bitcoin treasuries growing and coming into the market with the likes of, there's always been MicroStrategy, now it's Strategy, now we've got MetaPlanet. I'm sure we'll see more popping up.
There's even the new one by, I don't know if you know Tom Lee from Fundstrat, majorly famous analyst that basically picked the bottom in 2023, when the stock market, everyone was saying, we're going to crash. He was fading. He's actually joined a small-time Bitcoin mining company to set up the Ethereum MicroStrategy.
Yeah, and that's one of the companies we want to discuss later on.
Yeah,
so
nice.
good call out. But yeah, absolutely massive. So yeah, ETF inflows have been obviously playing a part in driving this this volatility. But is there anything else to call out? I suppose we haven't had any like super negative macro news come in lately. Like
that's it. Like we've talked about on the show to death. Like a lot of the data and metrics that we follow, or I specifically sort of lay out in terms of how does the landscape look, macro specifically, it's looked relatively stable since January, but there just has been this overarching, what's Trump doing? Yep. What's happening? Like there's just been this shock to like people wanting to sit on the sidelines and just wait till the dust is settled. And I guess now the dust is technically settled, right? Like I've seen Trump, I know we talked about it last week, talked about adding additional tariffs to South Korean auto producers, like 25%.
Yep.
And we were like, all right, great. Is this just the everything's just spilling back up again? We're going to start going into that environment. But the market didn't care. Like we're obviously up extraordinary amounts on some altcoins.
That's what we love to see. So typically when Bitcoin has a pump like this, we see altcoins follow. And I'm finding like every time we have a pump like this, the altcoins follow quicker and quicker, right? Back in, last cycle, 2021, Bitcoin would run for like, over a month, and then the altcoins would start to kick into gear. Now it's like less than 24 hours, right?
Well, it depends what you're looking at. Like, I think the ones we're tracking, just because I guess, thankfully we have been on the right side of a few of our picks. Like, they are tracking the market. Specifically, I'll give you a heads up, like Sui, been moving quite well. But yeah, if you look at some of your older ones, well, I guess some of the older ones we're playing catch up this week, right?
Let's go straight into it.
Yeah, let's go top performers. So there's obviously been quite a few that I'm sure many people are liking to see green in their portfolios. But the top performers in the last 7 days, we've got Pengu, so Pudgy Penguins token. That's leading the charge. It is up 112% in the last 7 days. So not bad.
Not bad for a penguin?
No, not bad for a penguin, and 200% in the last 30 days. In second place, we've got Stellar, and third place, Algo. So yeah, I guess just what you were saying, Algorand and H-Bar as well, sorry. So they're a bit more of the older coins.
Yeah.
Followed closely by Sui. So, I mean, the big one for me was Pudgy Penguins, if I'm completely honest, just loving to play in that meme coin field. It seems to be, to me, it's almost like Pudgy Penguins are trying to be the Bored Ape Yacht Club of this cycle. It's what it feels like. There was a whole bunch of major companies just on Twitter or X, changing their display picture to be the Pudgy PFP.
Interesting.
VanEck, so ETF provider, they changed their profile pic to be a Pudgy Penguin. Coinbase, Binance, certain wallet providers, Jupiter, Radium. The list goes on and on, so it's almost just weird.
Well, yeah. Pudgy Penguins also has that partnership with Walmart, and it has like the actual physical toys, so like kids can also, have play with the toys. It's not just the NFTs. So it kind of, by having those sort of affiliations, it kind of boosts its credibility, right?
So almost everyone wants to be a cheerleader for it right now, which I think is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously Pudgy Penguins, I believe they're on the Ethereum network. You even have Solana projects changing their profile pic, even temporarily, to a Pudgy, which I thought was really interesting.
But yeah, you called out a few of those other coins that have been in the top movers. So I think we've called them dinosaur coins before. I feel like that's a bit harsh. I would want to call them second cycle coins.
Okay.
Because this is these are the coins that sort of launched in 2021 when that bull market was going off, and now they've gone through that full cycle, and now they're coming back and having some strong gains. So yeah, you called it out. XLM, so Stellar, H-Bar, which is Hedera, Algorand, 1inch, IOTA, Conflux. So they're all in the top movers. So it's interesting to see that that's become a bit of a category in itself, like these second cycle layer ones. I did a few, I looked at a few stats, and in the top 200 altcoins, only 23% have been outperforming Bitcoin in the last 7 days. So yeah, what does that go to show? Bitcoin is still outperforming the majority of the market, but will we continue to see that? Like, I know just looking at some like a category breakdown of all the performance of each individual category, like some of them are starting to really heat up. So it's like, will we start to see a rotation out of Bitcoin into altcoins? Got a bit more of a favorable macro outcome. Hopefully no wars start in the next 6 months, and then we should be looking good. But one thing I do want to call out is the DeFi lending category has outperformed Bitcoin by 73% in the last 3 months. So
have you got anything in that space?
No, I don't at the moment. I know a market leader in that space is definitely Aave. That's also a second. That's a second cycle coin, and that's sort of that market leader in that space. But yeah, definitely one to watch, because as we know, like, things that outperform Bitcoin consistently typically means there's a lot of demand for them, and then typically will be the ones that perform the best in an altcoin season, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to have any takeaway from seeing this a couple of times, it's what's leading now. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, price is too high," or well, everyone's got to make their own decision. But from what we've seen in the past, something trending now, if we're just coming up to like a bit of a run up, it's likely to continue trending, and everything that's underperforming probably continues to lag.
Yep.
So for me, it's just like I'm just strategically setting the watch list now to what's been moving the last 7 days. So that list that I showed you, I'll probably be running through that quite frequently, just looking for opportunities. Pudgy, I think even Bonk, it's fallen off the top movers, but like that's just consistently recovering with the market. Even XRP, I know that's a bit lower on the list, but I like the idea of, if Bitcoin's gone, Ethereum's gone, my mind instantly turns to what else is in the top 10 that looks like it's about to maybe have some flows. So XRP and Doge are the two notable ones I've been keeping an eye on.
Okay. Interesting one. Bonk has actually entered the top 20 by market cap, which came out of nowhere, and it's actually coming in on like Shiba Inu. Like Shiba Inu, you barely have heard of it since last cycle, but it's still kind of maintained that relevance in market cap. But Bonk is slowly gaining on, or quickly gaining on
top 10, let's go.
Because we talked about it last week. It's got that Bonk.fun
just still outperforming.
Yeah, and it's outperforming Pump.fun, which just had a token launch as well.
Yeah, which did sell out actually.
Yeah, which did pretty well. Yeah. So be interesting to see if Bonk can continue this. I know it's at all-time highs, so we're in price discovery areas. So
not yet. It's close to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're the expert.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah. So, but yes, I do want to call that ETH, because ETH has just ticked over $3,000 US, and is starting to find a little bit of form. But it's like it has consistently lagged behind Bitcoin and really the rest of the market for like 12 months, a long time, right? And it's like, when is ETH gonna move, or is ETH just dead? But we're starting to see, as you mentioned before, we're starting to see these ETH treasury companies or entities coming out and buying up huge amounts of ETH. So we've got companies like SharpLink Gaming and Bit Digital that have acquired over $800 million worth of ETH in the last month or two, and so they are looking to build themselves up as that micro strategy of the Ethereum ecosystem, and it'll be interesting to see like whether they can ride that same wave that Strategy did, or if like the appetite for ETH's just not there.
I think the headlines are already making waves, because the SharpLink Gaming, I think last week, boasted $400,000 worth of revenue just from their staking rewards. They're just doing a yield generation and selling it. So,
well, that's the thing as well. Like the staking component of that. Obviously, you can't do that with Bitcoin. So you just kind of buy and holding and hope that you speculate the price will go up. Whereas ETH, you're doing the same, but then you also add the staking revenue into it, and by doing that, you're earning revenue, but you're also securing the network, which is good for the network as a whole. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how that performs. And like, I personally don't hold ETH anymore. Like, I sold ETH. But look, seeing this come out, it kind of does make me think, if I was holding ETH, I probably would just sit on it for the time being.
That's what you would do?
Yeah. But look, I think we will see ETH have a bit of a run in the next couple of months.
Yeah. I think we talked about it for, I want to say, start of this year, how hated ETH was. And I was sort of drawing parallels as to how similar that felt to being an early buyer of Solana when it dipped below $10 or $14 at the the time. It felt like chalking, like just exactly the same. So I thankfully purchased like some ETH back in Feb when everything was falling apart. So I'm kind of glad I did.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it still hasn't done much yet.
Well,
but
if the market's trending.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's what we pay. 100%. That's what we play for.
And we will see an ETH narrative, the likes of Pepe as it's sort of leading, or Shiba Inu and Pepe as their leading meme coins. So.
And another big one too, like obviously a lot of these companies, they're staking ETH themselves. But I mean, if you're a general company out there looking to make use of that mechanism of staking, you might not know how to do it. Your company may not have the governance to even allow it. So I think when the Ethereum ETFs allow native staking within them, I think that could be a really big driver for demand, because all of a sudden everyone can do it through an ETF. You don't have to go and do it yourself, which I think will be a big one. Yeah.
Well, we saw the Solana ETF. Well, it wasn't a spot ETF, but it is I think it's an exchange traded product, but
ETP.
ETP, but don't quite me on that. But that's
ETF will come.
Yeah, but that's offering staking now. So I think that was a world first. So that was on the CBOE exchange. So it'll be interesting to see how that performs in terms of like revenue coming in, and how that's reflected in terms of its price. So maybe in a bit of is it a beta play?
With Solana?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway.
kind of been running on the front, to be honest. Like, it looks really good still.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got both, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
They can both go.
Okay, Pav, what's next?
Well, I thought, going back to what we talked about earlier in the show, just sort of setting the stage for a pretty big week. To be honest, it's probably a big 2 weeks ahead. I'll stick to just the macro stuff that we've got coming up. But, where to from here? Obviously, the market's doing quite well. Everyone's seen potentially a lot of the chatter about Jerome Powell stepping down or Trump going to fire him or name his successor to rub it in his face. But the whole sort of idea is that there is this emphasis that the US is moving too slow to cut interest rates, and they're potentially going to stifle a growth cycle. Like, if we look at the data, we can look at what happened at the start of this year being a bit of a supply chain shock that had a knock-on effect to, just confidence in the market. But what we're seeing right now is just, discounted rates across commodities and a lot of governments internationally starting to, introduce more money into circulation, China being the main one to point to there. We could see a potential boom just across broader macro environments. So great news for Aussies. We're a commodity-rich country. Would be nice to see a couple of years where maybe there's a heavy demand arc for things like iron ore and copper and all that sort of stuff. But what that means for the markets in the next coming weeks, we basically have jobs data, inflation data, as well as the next key interest rates from a couple of the major central banks, the main one being the US at the very end of this month. So, I'd be watching for anything in the next 2 weeks that maybe are a tell that we could see a surprise rate cut towards the end of this month. If we don't, the current market consensus is, well, if it doesn't come in July, it's penciled in for September. And we're seeing that across bond markets. You can basically see it in implied rates there. So I think what we're going to see now is that even if Jerome Powell and the Fed or whatever don't pass on any immediate effects by the end of this month, you might start to see the market forecast it for September anyway. So I think that's the key thing to pay attention to heading into the very end of this month. And we can see in the past that when we had the first cut in November 24, had a massive boom effect for the markets as well as altcoins as well. So just the fact that money gets cheaper, there's less reason to hold on to it. There's more leverage in the system. Tend to see that spill over into crypto. Not necessarily goes directly to crypto, but it's a knock-on effect. So that's something that I think is very, very key to watch coming into the end of this month and probably moving forward into the back end of this year, to be honest.
Okay.
As a major theme. Yeah.
Okay. Like to hear it.
Yeah.
All good signs.
It is.
Another good sign, we've got Crypto Week as coined by the US government. So that's happening this week. So after the big, beautiful bill got passed, that was like their big ticket
also
thing.
dubbed BBB.
Yeah, the BBB.
Happening.
And now, I guess the focus has turned to crypto. So we've got Crypto Week at the White House. So we've got White House representatives. And this is considered the most coordinated legislative effort to bring clarity to the US crypto market. So what's the focus? I know they're sort of looking to get final approval on the Genius Act, which is that Stablecoin Act in the US. And then the other thing is the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, which is bringing regulatory framework for the crypto industry. So, we've seen in the past, like the SEC kind of, putting in policies by enforcement, whereas now we're hopefully going to see a more, supportive policy framework in the US. So, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The whole stance on it going into it is pretty positive. So I'm hoping, but obviously you need like a lot of bipartisan support when it comes to these sort of things. So, nothing's guaranteed.
Could be a few sticks in the mud.
Exactly. And then there's also the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. So that basically prevents the Federal Reserve in the US from launching a CBDC, a central bank digital currency.
Which is funny, right? Isn't Australia investigating one right now?
Yeah, well, it actually came out last week.
Yeah.
The Reserve Bank of Australia is looking to pilot a tokenized.
Yep.
They've worded it very complicated.
Okay.
But it basically boils down to a CBDC pilot. And they've partnered with the likes of ANZ, and also Red Belly Network, which is a chain that was launched here in Australia by one of the, I think it was the University of Sydney it started up, and now it's got its own token. So make sure to check that out. But this act in the US basically prevents the Federal Reserve from launching that. So I guess that's something that we had Trump talking about in the lead up to the presidential, because it basically just means, well, every single transaction will be able to be tracked, right? Which a lot of them can be tracked by the banks these days, and they are. But obviously, you can withdraw cash, and you can, cash is it doesn't leave much of a trail. So yeah, it's I don't know if I have a strong opinion on that one. Like, I don't think CBDC is necessarily the worst thing in the world, but I think if there's a CBDC, then, and it's easier to transact and it's also cheaper, then what is the point of stablecoins? I still think there will be. I think it will be more accessible to like lower developing countries and whatnot. But
I take the other side of the coin. I just think it kind of is encroaching probably a little bit too much on everyone's privacy. If you're like forced down this rabbit hole of we must track every single thing that you do. But I mean, if they use it for intrabank settlements or something like that, something a bit more back office. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can't see too much of an issue with that, because I guess you probably want maybe some of the characteristics of crypto isn't what you'd want if you're a bank moving trillions of dollars around, like accidentally sending money to a wallet address and you can't get it recalled. Exactly. Stuff like that. You'd probably be a bit sweaty if some intern fat-fingered and 0 for a 0.
I wonder if that will be built in, though.
I don't know. I kind of hope they've thought through a couple of angles. But yeah, I need to sit down and maybe have a look at what's the purpose of that pilot. Because consumer-based, I think they're just going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths.
So one to keep an eye on that week. So make sure to check out, like, we'll try and touch on it next week in our episode and like just break down some of the key updates from that meeting.
I think many of the key decisions will have landed by Thursday, Friday in the US. So that'll be Friday, Saturday morning, our time in Australia. So, keen to see what happens. Be interested to see how the market responds earlier this week leading into the news. If they're going to be expecting good news, might see the markets move higher or vice versa. Be a pretty good one to keep an eye on. Absolutely. Just to throw a bit of a random twist to this episode, I thought I'd touch on just two little, little look backs. I feel like crypto, as much as it doesn't do anything for a long time, you sit back and look at it, it's actually done quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Massive.
So I've got two things here for you, Ted, just to get you, maybe get putting on the rose-tinted glasses for a second.
Okay, get the juices flowing.
Yeah. But do you remember back in October 2023, prior to the Bitcoin ETFs going live, there was a fake tweet by an SEC intern?
I do.
Yeah. So that was back then. The fake tweet sent Bitcoin flying.
No, wasn't it on? No, it was a hack on Gary Gensler's Twitter, and then later it was a Cointelegraph article.
Intern. Yeah,
so I think both actually triggered a bit of a pump. But
they did. So that at that time, prices flew 10% above 30K for the first time in months. We're now sitting about 100K above that price. Just a little over a year and a bit later. So just crazy that, we were stressing back then about, how big of a pump, just crossing 30K. Now we've just like you said, crossed 123K, and it's just like,
ridiculous, right?
Business as usual.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, what other asset has done that in that amount of time? Like major asset. I know there's some like coins that have done that, but
no, exactly right. And the other one I quite liked was just reflecting on a post by Cointelegraph as well recently. El Salvador. So I know they've stopped potentially buying a quite big amount of Bitcoin, but they're still holding on to purchases since November 2022. It's reported that they're sitting currently on $456 million in unrealized profits, US.
Jeez. So that's worked out for them.
So they'll be happy about that. But just again, just to bring it back into perspective, we're talking about, things just move so quickly and the market's so volatile. Longer periods of time, it's just breathtaking to just imagine, if I had just a little bit a few years ago, we'll be saying the same thing 4 years from now, right?
I know the president of El Salvador copped heat for that whole notion around, we're going to be a Bitcoin country and we're going to invest in Bitcoin, because it kind of was towards the top end of that cycle. And then obviously they stopped when the bear market came around. But still, 456 million in profit, despite them buying the top of the last cycle, shows that time in the market, even on a smaller scale like you and I, instead of just trying to pick these crazy swings up and down each day, if you just, this doesn't go for all coins. It's probably just a Bitcoin and, whether how depending on how you look at ETH, but just goes to show that it does have that longevity, and it's that notion that time in the market is stronger than timing the market.
And I think I kind of want to point to that one specifically because I feel like right now a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin cruising going, is it too late? It might be. It just all depends your time horizon, like you said, right? So
it might be on a a 12-month lens or even longer, but long term, if you're looking to hold it as like a, an asset for 10, 20 years, even if you want to borrow against it, because it does have that sort of utility to it. Then I think, you got to kind of switch that mindset up.
Yeah, nice little perspective check, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap.
Let's leave it there and update everyone next week.
Yeah, big week next week, I feel. So
cool.
End of the month. Let's see how we go.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. See you later.
See ya.